Example of how you can create a low poly art image. So starting off right here, I have my nice colorful toucan. Now, what I'm going to do with this is that this process that we are doing is technically a destructive process. So I always want to make sure, just as a backup, always duplicate your layer so you have two copies of it. Okay, so this first layer right here, what I'm first going to do is I'm going to essentially isolate the bird out of its background. So right up here, you'll probably have the lasso tool. But when we click on it, we're going to be using the polygonal lasso tool for this. And what this essentially does is it's similar to the lasso tool, but also a little different in that we can't create direct curves. Instead, it goes with a straight line. So you have to click each time, and then when it goes back to the starting point, if you notice there's a small little circle next to it now, that means it is connected. So you can now click on that and that becomes a selection. So what I'm going to do when we deselect that is I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Okay. And now with my polygonal lasso tool, I'm just going to start kind of outlining the basic shape of my toucan. So starting from down here, I click like that. And it does not have to be perfect. A little bit of different lines can actually be kind of interesting in yours. Just like that. So each time I want to go up and down, I then click each single time. So I have that, but I accidentally forgot to keep going. So that's because I double clicked instead of a single click. If that happens, you don't have to deselect everything and redo it all. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click over here with my lasso tool, making sure it's on add to selection. I'm simply going to click and just kind of draw around what I know I want to include in it. Just like that. That works. That's fine. Okay. So again, I want to be just using the toucan itself. So what I'm going to do is this bottom layer, I'm going to make it invisible, and then I'm going to inverse the selection. So select, I'm going to inverse, and then click delete, backspace. So that right now is my current background. And actually, no, I'm just going to make the white background as well. Just easier to focus. So I'm going to deselect, and now I'm going to begin making my actual poly symbols, okay? So again, using the polygonal lasso tool, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to start on the beak. So if I want this sort of area right here, what you can simply do is click, click, I'm going to go up here, and then go back down there, and I've essentially formed, this is known as a poly, so it's a basic geometric shape like that. And to get the effect of the poly art, what we actually want to do is after we make the selection, you can go to filter, under blur is average. And what that does is it takes all of the average colors in that selection and makes it a solid color like that. Okay. So I'm going to deselect, so Command D, move on to my next shape. So again, I'm going to click. Maybe I want a slightly smaller triangle this time, making sure it's fully done like that. And if it gets slightly annoying having to keep going up to filter and then average, what you can actually do is, I'm going to show you a little trick. So I'm going to click, and it's totally okay if you overlap your selections like this. That actually might be best just to prevent any gaps from occurring. Once you're selected, what you can actually do is on your keyboard, press Command Control F, and that does that trick for you right there. So again, just going to click. And if you want to, you don't have to do exactly triangles. They can go a little different as well. So again, to fill it, Command Control F, like that. Okay, so then maybe I just want to get this basic shape kind of like that. So that's sort of the overall gist of how to do the poly art. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a pause on this and keep working because you don't have to see me continue to do the whole exact thing. And when we get back, you'll see the final toucan. Okay, and here is the final product, my final toucan. Something I would also recommend doing is once you are done, you can also go further in, just zoom in and check for any pieces that you may have missed. So for example, actually over here, there's a piece of the feather from behind, and you can, again, using the same tool, click, and you can still actually work with those colors. It's going to still incorporate the average color of that, just like that. So then kind of go in and see if there's any sections that might be needed. Just kind of fix up a little bit, nothing too crazy. Just like that. When you are all done, then what we can do is I'm going to bring back the white background layer, and I actually am going to give it a color. So I'm going to go for this sort of dark brown, like that. You know, I just feel like sort of playing around with some of the brushes right now. Maybe I'll go for a more textured one like that. And good. Yep, make sure you're on the correct layer, unlike I did. So make sure on the background layer. Like that. Your background can really be whatever you want it to be. I'm just sort of using this because I like that texture. But if you think it's too busy in comparison to the poly, all the polys going on, you can also just go for a more solid one. And so I'm happy with that. And so that is one way to make a poly animal.